I was 18 years old the last time I saw my family. Legally an adult, sure, but still young enough to think they'd never really leave me behind. That illusion shattered outside a dingy motel on the edge of Nevada. It was supposed to be our big reconnection road trip, my parents, my 2 older brothers, and me. The plan was to visit a dozen national parks in 3 weeks. But from day one, it was clear I didn't fit. I was quieter, slower in the mornings. I liked to take pictures, breathe in the silence, maybe read the plaques at the visitor centers. My family, on the other hand, wanted selfies, speed, and constant motion. I was killing the momentum, apparently. Every time I asked to stop for more than 5 minutes, I got eye rolls. Every hike, I was the one trailing in the back while they laughed ahead. Every meal, I ate in silence while they talked over each other. But I never thought they'd actually ditch me. That morning in Nevada, I woke up to silence. The room was empty. I checked my phone, no texts, no calls. My bag was still there, but the car was gone. I walked to the front desk, heart pounding. The clerk looked up like she'd been expecting me. "Your folks checked out about an hour ago," she said flatly. "Said you were staying behind." I blinked. "What?" "They left you a note," she added, sliding a folded receipt across the counter. It read, "You need to figure things out. We'll cover the motel tonight. Time to grow up." That was it. No love, no explanation, no phone number. I stood there with my wallet, $38 in cash, a half-charged phone, and no idea what to do next. I waited. An hour passed. Then 2. I finally called my mom. Straight to voicemail. I texted both my brothers. No reply. My dad? He blocked my number. I found out when the text bounced. They really left. Not by accident. Not in a panic. On purpose. That night, I sat in that cheap motel room staring at the popcorn ceiling like it held the answer. My stomach was growling. My chest was tight. I felt stupid. Angry. Hollow. Like someone had punched a hole through my gut and left the wind to whistle through. I could have gone home. Called a friend. Reached out to someone. But I didn't. Because something clicked in me that night. If I was going to be left behind, I might as well leave everything behind, too. So I packed my bag. Took one last look at that room. And walked out into the desert air with no plan, no backup, and no intention of ever letting them see me down again. I walked until my legs burned. Until the sun dipped low enough to cast my shadow ahead of me. There was no destination. No plan. Just the overwhelming certainty that going backward wasn't an option. I ended up in a greasy diner just off the main road. Neon buzzing overhead, air heavy with the smell of bacon and bleach. I stepped inside, still wearing the same wrinkled clothes from the motel, and walked straight to the counter. "I'm looking for work," I said. The woman behind the register didn't flinch. She had sharp eyes, short gray hair, and a faded tattoo on her wrist that said Gloria. She looked me up and down like she was sizing up a stray dog. "Ever wash dishes?" "No," I said, "but I'll figure it out." She stared at me for a long second, then motioned toward the back. "Sinks through that door. You don't break anything, I'll feed you. Deal?" I nodded. Deal. And just like that, I was a dishwasher. No paperwork. No questions. Just a sponge, a stack of crusted plates, and Gloria's raspy voice yelling from the kitchen. It was brutal work. My hands bled from scrubbing. My back ached from standing. But for the first time in my life, I felt useful, needed even. She paid me $20 cash every shift and let me sleep on a cot in the storage room. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I stayed there for 6 months. During the day, I worked. At night, I read old cookbooks she kept in the back and watched YouTube videos on my cracked phone. I learned how to chop an onion without crying, how to make a perfect grilled cheese, how to plate a dish like it belonged in a 5-star restaurant. One night, Gloria caught me trying to duplicate a steak au poivre I saw online using a rusted skillet and gas station peppercorns. She laughed so hard she nearly fell over. "You trying to go fancy now?" she asked. "Why not?" I shrugged. "May as well learn something." She handed me a clean apron. "If you're serious, I'll teach you real stuff. Not YouTube fluff." And she did. Turns out Gloria had been a sous chef at a well-known steakhouse in Vegas before quitting the industry to take care of her mom. She knew technique, flavor, timing. She drilled it into me every night after closing. I burned food, over-seasoned, screwed up plenty, but I learned. One day, she looked at me and said, "You got hands, kid. That's what we call it in the business. You got hands." That was the first compliment I'd believed in years. When I turned 19, I packed my bag again. Gloria gave me $200, a list of names, and a hug that lasted longer than I expected. "You don't owe anybody a damn thing," she whispered. I left the diner before sunrise, hopped on a train heading west, and never looked back. I wasn't just running anymore. I was becoming someone. And my family? They still hadn't called. The train dropped me off in Sacramento. I didn't know a single soul there, which was exactly what I wanted. I found a room in a shared house with 3 strangers who didn't ask questions. I paid rent in cash. I worked 2 jobs. Day shifts at a fast casual burger place, night shifts at a hotel kitchen scraping plates and mopping tile. Nobody knew my past. Nobody cared. And for the first time in my life, that felt good. I was 20 when I walked into a newly opened French bistro downtown. I wasn't looking to eat. I was looking for a shot. The owner was a bald, tired-looking man named Pascal with a heavy accent and zero patience. "You have resume?" he asked without looking up. "No," I said, "but I've got hands, and I'll work harder than anyone in this building." He didn't even flinch, just stared at me. "You wash dishes until I say stop," he said. "And if you touch my food without permission, I throw you out the door." Fair enough. For 6 months, I kept my mouth shut and did every dirty job they threw at me. I cleaned the drains, peeled endless bags of potatoes, sorted through spoiled produce. But I watched every movement, every ingredient, every plating technique. I memorized everything. One night, the line cook didn't show up. Dinner service was packed. Pascal looked like he was about to cancel half the menu. "I can do grill," I said without thinking. He stared at me, then pointed to the apron rack. "Put it on." That night I cooked 32 entrees without a single return. Pascal didn't say a word. But the next day my name was on the schedule under line cook, not dishwasher. That was the start of it. From there it snowballed. Every kitchen I entered, I rose faster. People noticed. Chefs recommended me. My plating got tighter. My sauces got smoother. I learned not just how to cook, but how to lead. By the time I was 23, I was head chef of a mid-tier restaurant with real reviews, real customers, and a staff that respected me. Not feared me. Respected me. One night after service, I walked home and passed a magazine stand. There was a headline on a culinary issue that caught my eye, Next-Gen Chefs to Watch. I opened it out of curiosity and nearly dropped it. A restaurant in LA had listed me as a silent consultant. One of their new investors was bragging about hiring a mystery chef with the cleanest reputation in Sacramento. I smiled, not because I'd made it, but because I hadn't even tried to be seen yet. That was the moment I knew. If I pushed just a little harder, they wouldn't just notice me. They'd never forget me. I moved to Los Angeles with 2 duffel bags, 0 connections, and 1 offer I couldn't ignore. A well-known restaurant group wanted to build something new, something bold. They'd heard about me through whispers. No social media, no self-promotion, just word of mouth from chefs who knew. They offered me an executive chef role in a concept that hadn't even launched yet. I took it. For the next 3 years, I worked 12-hour days, 7 days a week. I built the menu from scratch, designed the kitchen layout, handpicked every staff member. When we opened, it wasn't just a restaurant. It was an event. Influencers lined up to get a table. Celebrities name-dropped us in interviews. Food critics wrote pieces that read like love letters. Within 6 months, we were on the front page of Modern Plate, Fine Taste, and Food World Monthly. But the one that changed everything? Culture and Grit magazine. They ran a full spread titled The Mystery Chef Who Built an Empire in Silence. And right there, dead center of the 2-page photo, was me. Apron on, arms crossed, standing in the kitchen that I built. No smile, no fancy lighting. Just the truth. I didn't think twice about it. Until a week later, I got a message request on Instagram. Username at Lena_T87 message. "Are you the same Daniel who traveled through Nevada with the Mitchell family in 2004? I think we were in school together. Saw your article. Congrats." I stared at the screen. Nobody had used my real last name in years. I hadn't gone by Daniel Mitchell since I walked out of that motel at 18. I'd changed it legally. Went by Daniel Cross now. My mother's maiden name. A fresh start, no strings attached. But suddenly it hit me. If Lena found me, so could they. I scrolled through my DMs, my email, my contact form, and then I saw it. Subject, is this you? The sender? My brother Jason. I didn't open it. Instead, I sat in the back corner of the restaurant, pulled out a bottle of house red, and poured a single glass. The hum of the kitchen still buzzed around me. Orders being called, pans hitting the fire, servers rushing in and out. But my mind was somewhere else. I remember the motel carpet. The note they left. The gut-punch silence of being abandoned. And now? Now they were trying to crawl back in. Because they'd seen a picture. Because now I was worth something. I didn't reply. Not out of spite. But because some wounds aren't healed by apologies. They're healed by success. And I wasn't done winning yet. 3 weeks after the magazine article dropped, they showed up. I was standing in the prep kitchen, breaking down fresh herbs for a private tasting when my GM walked in with a strange look on her face. There's a group asking for you at the front, she said. Said it's urgent. They didn't give a reservation name. I dried my hands, straightened my coat, and walked out. And there they were. My mom. My dad. Jason. And Mark. Standing in the middle of my restaurant's foyer like nothing had happened. My mom's hair was shorter, dyed a pale blonde. My dad looked smaller somehow, thinner, like the years had taken something from him. Jason looked exactly the same. Arrogant, clean-cut, wearing a smug little smirk like he expected a hug. I stopped a few feet away. We saw the article, my mother said softly. We were surprised, proud, even. I didn't say anything, just looked at them. Jason jumped in. You changed your name? You could have told us, man. We've been trying to find you. My jaw tightened. I nodded once to my GM, who immediately walked back to the office. You left me in Nevada, I said. Calm. Clear. My father raised a hand. We thought it was time for you to stand on your own. You were always so dependent. We thought it would help you grow up. I was 18, I said. No car. No money. No warning. You turned out fine, Jason laughed. Look at this place. Honestly, we did you a favor. I took one breath. Then another. You're not on the list, I said. You'll need to leave. My mother blinked. You're kicking us out? No, I said. You removed yourselves years ago. I'm just honoring your choice. Jason took a step forward. Come on, Dan. Don't be like that. We're family. No, I said. You're guests in my restaurant. Uninvited ones. My GM returned with security. They didn't argue. My father muttered something about ungrateful under his breath. My mom had tears in her eyes, but I didn't flinch. I stood still as they were escorted out one by one. The door clicked behind them, and I went back to the kitchen. There were 30 more plates to finish, and I wasn't about to fall behind now. I didn't hear from them for months after that. No more surprise visits. No emails. No DMs. Just silence. And to be honest, it was peaceful. I focused on my work. Opened a second location. Picked up a speaking engagement at a culinary summit in New York. People were asking questions now. Who was this guy with no formal training and no online presence that came out of nowhere and rewrote fine dining? I never told the full story. Just the parts that mattered. Hard work. Grit. Lessons learned from the ground up. The truth didn't need decoration. But the past always finds a way to knock on your door when you least expect it. Came in the form of a letter. Real paper. Handwritten. Postmarked from my old hometown. No return address. Just my name. Daniel Cross. And the restaurant's P.O. box. I opened it with one hand while stirring a reduction with the other. Inside was a single sheet. My mother's handwriting. Slanted, soft. Familiar in the way a scar is. She wrote that my father had a stroke. That Jason lost his job. That Mark moved states and doesn't talk to them anymore. She said they were struggling, that everything was falling apart, and that seeing me on that magazine cover made them realize how much they lost. She didn't ask for money. She asked for a chance to talk. Just one conversation. No expectations. Just words. I folded the letter and set it down on the counter next to a pile of basil. My staff was prepping for a wine pairing dinner. My inbox had 20 unread emails. My phone was buzzing with a supplier request, but all I could do was stare at that paper. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part of me, buried under years of silence, wanted to scream. Not out of anger, out of disbelief. That after all this time, after the motel, after the years they let me vanish, they thought a letter could fix it. I didn't reply. I didn't call. I didn't write back. Not because I hated them, but because I finally understood. They weren't reaching out because they missed me. They were reaching out because they lost control. And I was no longer a child they could forget in the rearview mirror. I was the man they had to watch from a distance. Unreachable, unapologetic, unbroken. The letter stayed in my office drawer for 6 months. I never reread it, never showed anyone. It just sat there under a stack of invoices and supplier receipts like it didn't deserve the space it took up. The more success I built, the more noise followed. Press invites, book offers, investors throwing money at me to expand to other cities. But despite everything I had accomplished, there was still that quiet voice at night asking, would they care if you were nobody?
And deep down, I already knew the answer. One day, I got a message from a documentary producer. She wanted to feature me in a film about chefs who rose from nothing, no family support, no big names behind them, just grind and vision. I said yes. Not because I wanted to be famous, but because the truth deserved a platform bigger than my kitchen. When the documentary aired on a major streaming platform, the impact was immediate. My inbox flooded. Customers doubled. Media requests exploded.
But then came the one message that stopped me cold. It was a voicemail. My mom's voice. Cracked. Weary. I watched the documentary, she said. I didn't know it was that bad. I didn't know you felt that alone. I'm sorry, Daniel. I truly am. We failed you. I stood in the corner of my office for a long time after that, the phone still in my hand. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just stood there, because for the first time in 20 years, she didn't try to justify it. Didn't say it was for my own good. She just said sorry. And that mattered. But it didn't fix anything. A few months later, I was invited to speak at a leadership conference for young chefs. I stood in front of 800 people and told them what no one told me. That your value isn't measured by who accepts you. That abandonment isn't your fault. That sometimes the best revenge isn't spite. It's proof. Proof that you became everything they said you couldn't without needing their approval. After the speech, a young man approached me. Nervous. Shaky voice. Your story sounded like mine, he said. I thought I was alone. I handed him my card. You're not, I said. You're just getting started. That night, I walked home through the city, past my own restaurant glowing on the corner. I looked up at the sign. My name, my brand, my story, and I realized something. I never needed them to see me win. I just needed to see it for myself. They left me behind, but I didn't stay there. I built a life so big they couldn't ignore it. And in the end, that's all the closure I ever needed. 3 years after the documentary, I opened my 5th restaurant. Not in LA, not in New York, but in the same state where they left me behind. Nevada. The opening night was sold out 2 months in advance. Food critics flew in. Industry legends booked tables. And on the reservation list for table 16 at 8 p.m. was a name I hadn't seen in decades. Mitchell. No first name, just the last. I told my staff to treat them like any other guest. No special treatment. No alerts. I didn't want them warned. I wanted them to see what they left behind. The dining room was glowing. Every table plated with care. The scent of roasted duck, lemon thyme, and smoked beetroot filled the air. I stayed in the kitchen for most of the night, but around 8:45, I walked the floor. And there they were. My mother, older, quieter. My father beside her, frail but alert. Jason wasn't there. Mark either.
Just the two of them. They looked up as I passed. My mother's lips parted slightly. My father didn't speak. I paused for less than a second, then moved on. I wasn't there to acknowledge them. I was there to finish what I started. At the end of the night, before the last table was cleared, my maitre d' approached. They left you this, he said, handing me a folded note. I slipped it into my pocket without opening it. Not because I didn't care, but because the moment had already passed. I walked out the back door of the restaurant and stood in the alley for a breath of cold air. The neon sign from the motel I once slept in flickered in the distance. Down the same road I walked at 18 with nothing but a backpack and a fire they didn't see coming. I smiled. Not a victory smile. Not revenge. Just peace. Because sometimes life doesn't give you the apology you want, but it gives you the success they never saw coming. I made it, not in spite of being left behind,
but because I finally learned that being left behind was never the end. It was the beginning, and when they saw me again, not as the kid they ditched, but as the man they couldn't ignore, that was enough. The note stayed in my coat pocket for a week. Then I burned it, not in anger, but to mark the end of a story that was no longer mine to carry. I'm not the forgotten kid from the motel anymore. I'm the name on the door, the mentor in the kitchen, the story someone else will one day tell.
Not as a victim, but as proof that being broken doesn't mean you stay that way. They left me behind, but I never stayed there.